Attorneys, in today's video, we're going to talk about how going from 2 million to 20 million in revenue is actually much easier than going from 2 million to 4 million. I know that sounds backwards, but by the end of this video, you'll see why it's not. Quick context, my name is Hugo E. I'm the founder of Abogados NOW. We've helped over 500 law firms nationwide with staffing, with marketing, and we've helped generate over $250 million in settlement fees. We're also a Google Premier Partner Agency, which puts us at the top 3% of agencies in the world. And this idea of 10x is easier than 2x, this idea changed how I built both of my companies. So I hope it'll change how you think about your firm.
Before we continue, a quick note and the only break you'll hear in today's episode. Most attorneys know they should be reaching Hispanic clients, but very few do it well. That's where we come in. At Abogados NOW, we build authentic Spanish language campaigns that actually get you more cases and grow your practice. So if you're looking for a new way to get more clients, book a call with our team today at abogadosnow.com. Now, let's get back to the episode.
So let's first start off with the book, 10x is easier than 2x. It's authored by Dan Sullivan and Dr. Benjamin Hardy. Dan Sullivan is the co-founder of Strategic Coach, one of the leading entrepreneurial coaching programs in the world. And he's coached more than 20,000 entrepreneurs over 30 years. Chris Voss, Peter Diamandis, Gino Wickman of EOS, they are all students of his. So this is his concept that is followed by thousands of business owners around the world. So the premise is this: doing something 2x means doing the same thing, but harder. Doing something 10x means doing a completely different thing. 2x means doing the same thing for more hours, with more effort, with more stress for the same model. 10x means employing a different identity, having higher standards. And paradoxically, it's less effort because you eliminate 80% of the things that do not scale. They put it plainly, 10x growth is not about doing 10x more work. It requires letting go of 80% of what you currently do and going all in on the 20% that actually produces results. So that's the principle. Now let me show you what it looks like inside of a law firm. Chapter 1, the $2 million trap. You're working harder, not really smarter. And the $2 million firm is the founder doing everything. Rainmaking, managing, lawyering, marketing, HR. Going to 4 million means doing all of that, but twice as fast. So let's pay attention to the left side of the panel. The $2 million firm owner is an attorney that wakes up at 5 a.m. They review cases until 7. They do client calls until noon. They manage a staff until 3 p.m. They look at marketing until around 5 p.m. Then they do some more independent solo work on cases until 8. It's a 60, 70, 80-hour work week, and burnout is inherent in the business model. Now, let's look at the schedule and the agenda of an attorney running a $20 million plus firm. They're waking up later, a couple hours later, at 7 a.m. They're having 2 strategic meetings. Maybe they're head of paralegals or head of intake, head of marketing. They're reviewing a few key cases that warrant only their attention. Then they have lunch with not alone, not with another colleague. They're having lunch with a referral source. They're thinking about marketing at scale. Then they're reviewing dashboards and reports at 4. They're home by 5, 6 p.m. And their work week is, 40, 45 hours, much more reasonable. However, systems are the business model. The comparison here is very stark. The $2 million law firm is owned by an attorney selling their time. The $20 million plus law firm is run by an attorney who built systems and has decentralized him or herself from the equation. So chapter 2, 2x means more hours, and the $2 million firm bills every hour. The $20 million law firm is built on infrastructure. So let's see how cases are worked in this comparison. The smaller law firm has a founder that reviews every file. Nothing gets past him or her. Then there's no case management system, or maybe a tick above that, maybe some Google Sheets. Intake is handled by a receptionist. Conversion rates, unknown. Then there's no documented standard operating procedures. There's only tribal knowledge, meaning if someone takes a vacation, so does all that work. And lastly, marketing is one Google Ads campaign That's someone's setup that may or may not be working. We hear this all the time with LSAs. Now let's look at something a little more mature on the $20 million law firm. They have a dedicated intake team. Even if it's third party, it's dedicated. Then they have Clio or Filevine that's running and tracking every case. Then there's conversions tracked by agent. Then they're looking at their reports. They're seeing what is our intake conversion this month, this week, this quarter? How does it compare to the prior week, month, or quarter? How does it forecast for the remainder of the week, month, quarter? Then there's documented SOPs for every process. Maybe the firm is running on Monday.com, or it's working off of Slack or Asana or some project management tool that can take all the the tribal and institutional knowledge and packaging it up for the team to discover themselves. And lastly, they don't have one Google Ads management campaign. They have a multi-channel attribution stack. They track referrals. They track Google calls. They track Facebook calls, TikTok calls, YouTube calls, blogging calls, SEO calls. Runs the gamut. So to recap, at $2 million, you're billing every hour yourself. But at $20 million, you're building a machine that bills while you sleep. Chapter 3, stop doing everything and start doing only what you can do. Sullivan calls this your unique ability. For a law firm, it's usually 3 things. At $2 million, you do 15 things every day. At $20 million, you do 3. You manage relationships, you monitor strategy, and you manage high-value cases that only you should touch. The other 12 things are handled by people you hired and the systems that you built. That's 80-20 in action, classic Pareto principle. If you feel like the left column is your day-to-day life, there's a very unlikely chance that you'll ever break 8 figures. The reality is that even at the $10 million law firm level, the attorney is doing as few things as possible, but the few things that he or she is doing are extremely high leverage. They're building relationships, they're working on strategy, meaning they're working on the business, not inside the business, and they're managing oversight on high value cases, things that warrant their personal attention. At the 8-figure plus level, most things are delegated, meaning a mindset and identity has to be employed where you're relinquishing control. And you're relinquishing control to a team that you really trust. Chapter 4, you don't have a revenue problem. You probably have a hiring problem. The $2 million law firm refuses to hire ahead of revenue, whereas a $20 million law firm hires ahead and grows into the capacity. Here's the brutal reality. You can't 10x by yourself. You do need an intake team. You do need a head of marketing. You do need a COO or head of operations. You need paralegals who are autonomous, who may make mistakes, but the net result is in the benefit of your scaling story. The $2 million firm says, I'll hire when I can afford it. Whereas a $20 million law firm, they say, I'll hire so I can afford it. It's a different philosophy. It's a different outcome. And ultimately, it's a different mindset. You have to have loss leaders in the pursuit of growth. In our experience, when we're working with firms at the $2 million or less level, their biggest fear is payroll. Whereas the larger firms that we work with, their biggest fear is churning away cases. One optimizes for cost, the other optimizes for growth. The reality is that the one that optimizes for growth always wins. So let's get a little further into marketing here. Chapter 5, one channel won't get you to $20 million. A portfolio will. Here's the sad truth. If you're doing sub 8 figures, you're banking everything on Google and you're praying. That's what a lot of firms do at the 10 million sub level. Most cases at that level come from 1 or 2 channels. And that is an incredibly high level of exposure and risk because that's a very narrow point of failure. When you have no SEO, no brand, no systems to generate referrals or to employ or to deploy reviews at scale, very few people are going to see you beyond the dollars that you pay for an advertising. And you don't want your entire business depending on one marketing line item. It just doesn't scale. The reality is that at the 8-figure plus level, you're running Google Ads. You're investing on SEO and treating it like an asset, like real estate. You're always having LSAs turned on. You're at referral network events in person, like Provisors and things of that nature. You're on YouTube producing videos, if not having videos produced with your in-house team. You're going to community events, and your brand search by default, it grows over time because you're just visible. You're more omni-channel. And again, that does require a different mindset. You have to have some loss leaders here. These are investments that are supposed to pay back over time. And that is what I see as the biggest difference between those that do 20 million plus a year and those not. It's really an appetite for risk and an appetite for understanding that there is a trajectory here. It isn't dollars out, orders in. There is a trajectory of growth that is pretty measured, and it's really conservative in the expectation of outcomes. So full stop, single channel risk will cap you at 2, 3, if you're lucky, 4 million. Diversification unlocks you way beyond 20 million annually. So chapter 6, this is my favorite chapter. The smaller law firms only track revenue, whereas the larger law firms, the $20 million firms, they're tracking unit economics. And it's a dashboard gap that means the difference between scaling and then the other one is surviving. So let's draw your attention to the left column here. Most law firms between 2, upwards of 5, 6 million, we find are doing an okay job tracking quarterly revenues, total cases signed per month, total ad spend, and that's it. And that's nothing wrong with that, but it is limiting. It only tells you what just happened. If they're a little more sophisticated, they're looking at cost per signed case. They know their cost per signed case by channel, and they're fairly aware of how many calls it takes from intake to convert into a case. That's something that we see at the 3, 4, 5+ million level. However, at the higher levels of revenues, the $20 million law firms, they're measuring cost per case by channel per day, sometimes even per hour in terms of volume. Then there's by case type. Classically, in personal injury, everyone wants to know their cost per signed case, per channel, per incident, whether it's high value like commercial trucking or just your standard minimum liability cases in auto accidents. Then at that volume, they're looking at intake conversion by intake rep. They're looking at average case value by source. We've seen this all the time where an attorney is willing to pay a premium for a cost per case because they know that they historically get a higher case value pursuant to a certain source. Really interesting unit economics there. And then lastly, blended CAC or customer acquisition costs trends quarterly. These folks are forecasting. They're not just measuring what happened, they're also anticipating what should happen. And that forecasting keeps everyone even more accountable than the historical numbers. So, chapter 7 is about forcing you to become a CEO at the 10x level. If you just want a 2x, you just stay a lawyer. The real barrier to scale isn't money or cases or investment. It really is identity. Going 10x means you stop being a lawyer who runs a business day to day and start becoming a CEO who happens to have a law degree. Most attorneys won't make that shift, and that's totally fine. If that's not in your scaling story or your identity, that's totally fine to run a 7, even 6-figure law firm. But in order to achieve 8 figures, 20 million plus, you're going to have to become a different version of yourself. So here's the identity breakdown. At 7 figures and under, it's quote, I'm a lawyer. I take the cases. I make every decision. I review every document. I am the brand. The firm is me. If I stop, everything stops. So let's contrast that to the $20 million law firm. The identity starts with, I'm a CEO. I'm chairman of the board. I build a team. I set the strategy. I review the dashboard and I ask the tough questions to marketing, to paralegals, to operations. The brand is bigger than me. The firm is bigger than me. The firm runs without me. If I stop and I get out of the way, the company grows. And here's the paradox. The $20 million law firm owner, they simply work fewer hours. They have more freedom. They earn more per partner. And they're worth 3 to 5 times more at the exit. The $2 million law firm, frankly, is a higher paying job, just with a little more stress. So the isn't hard. The identity shift is. So in summary, 2x is a grind, 10x is a decision. And once you make that decision, the work gets easier, not harder, because you're finally doing only what you can do. At Abogados Now, we build a marketing infrastructure for the 10x firm. Attribution, intake systems, omni-channel strategy, AI SEO, social media, anything that makes 10x possible. You make the decision, we build a machine. So if you're ready to stop grinding at 2x, let's build a 10x infrastructure together. So book a call. The link is in the call notes below. Let's talk.